Ha ha, here's the problem. Too many toasters. You know what they say, all toasters toast toast.
What the fuck did I just listen to? Mario Toast... What? Okay, I think my brain is officially leaking out of my ears. So let's start the video. You know, viewer, it's a saying close to my heart that you can never truly know how terrible something is until you experience it yourself. It's something that helped me get over the trepidation of roller coasters and trying new foods, and most of the time the new experiences were actually quite fun. But in terms of Hotel Mario for the CDI, let's just see if the popular opinion of worst game ever actually holds true for the mid-90s spin-off that had been made. If you didn't know already, this is a game that was created when Nintendo decided to trade its intellectual property for powerful hardware in order to get some new edges on the market, which at the time was the easiest it could have possibly been to do that, since Nintendo was just giving anybody with half an idea access to the Mario license at that point, if all those half-baked edutainment and activity center game failures weren't evidence enough. Okay, so what did Phillips do with this unique opportunity? Well, they contacted an unknown company known as Fantasy Factory to make their new console's flagship title. The developer took one look at the Mario series as of that point and decided to make the industry's finest door-closing simulator on the market. I have absolutely no idea what Phillips and their developer were smoking when they thought of this idea, because while it is a kind of, sort of, platformer thing, it also comes with an incredibly stupid plot. The premise of the game is that Princess Peach has been captured again for obvious reasons, and she keeps getting whisked away to the Koopalings' many hotels. In order to defeat the Koopalings, the Mario Brothers work hard to close every door in the hotel, because I think they're trying to shut down the Koopalings' businesses. It is better to have a plot that makes no sense than a plot that can't be understood. I'll give Mario and Wario this: the game had an incredibly stupid story, but at least I know what Wario was trying to do. Here, I'm completely lost because the game treats these places like legitimate hotels. Are the customers they get people from Bowser's Army or something? If that was the case, then why are some of them catering to robots? Okay, for the sake of argument, let's just say that closing all the doors will ruin the hotel's business forever, even though it doesn't seem like the Koopalings care about running these hotels at all. But anyway, the game works like this. You run around and use elevators to get access to the doors that Mario needs to close and the enemies he needs to kill. And a lot of the time, Mario has to think carefully about his attacks because every time he jumps, Mario gets exposed to the floor above him. For most of the game, Mario is going to be vulnerable to the one-hit kill trope, and the only way to protect himself is to get powered up, which the game has on occasion. The giant problem is that the game never tells the player that the way to get more power-ups is to open doors that start out closed at the beginning of the level. I never figured this out until Wendy's Hotel right at the end of the game, because the game is incapable of telling you what you are supposed to be doing, proved by the game's idea of having the fireball mapped to the two action buttons simultaneously. Doing this will most likely have Mario jumping while he's throwing projectiles, and with the game being so full of visual noise and nonsense, you'll hit an enemy and then lose that incredibly rare power-up. For all of the deserved shit I'm shoveling this game's way, for the first couple of levels I was actually getting into it. Sure, the second level had those randomly appearing ninja ruining a couple levels, but it was for the most part fine. And then you get to the fourth level, which should be renamed Hotel of Visual Noise, because the only thing that level does is constantly throw shit on screen hoping to confuse the crap out of the player. Fantasy Factory's commitment to stupidity was only further shown by the decision to have unkillable clouds follow Mario around on every stage in that level. All 10 of them, and these two clouds are just clogging up the screen with their useless existence. Somehow the levels got even worse later because the big thing in Ludwig's hotel is that there's these tiny ass bats in huge numbers that can easily kill you by accident because of the game's pixel perfect animations deciding that you hit the bad part of the monster even if you end up killing the enemy in the same jump. It is so mind-bogglingly moronic how Fantasy Factory screwed up basic platforming design. The only good part about this is that for some dumbass reason, the game has no consequences. If you lose all your lives in a stage, then the game just puts you back at that same stage during the restart, which means this is a live system game that natively has infinite lives. Why not? And it's a good thing too, since at that point I somehow made it to Wendy's hotel, and at stage 6-7 is when the game completely fell apart. In this level is where the game introduces double-sided stages, where you have to beat 2 rooms of doors in order to win. Why Fantasy Factory didn't just put in a 20-stage hotel is beyond me, because it makes the entire experience even more infuriating, and the second part of 6-7 has you facing off against multiple floors of Mecha Koopas who can't be killed. So there's no way to close all the doors since you can only stun all the bad guys for all of 2 seconds. So the only way to beat the level is to die around 50 times and wait until the game gives you a random bonus fire flower that'll let you torch all the Mecha Koopas, and hopefully you'll still have enough time to beat the level because otherwise the time runs out and you have to start all over again. The later levels don't fare much better since Wendy's boss battle has unkillable ads in it and heat-seeking attacks that are impossible to dodge. If anyone manages to actually beat their way through this game, I definitely applaud them for the effort since this game is so mind-numbingly, controller-thrashingly frustrating that I'd bet it's rare that Phillips got anyone over the halfway mark. Thankfully, Bowser's Castle actually dials down the difficulty somewhat, and his boss battle isn't as terrible as Wendy's, because the final hotel is essentially a clip show of the entire game's enemy roster, and they stopped using the coin enemies for most of it. Obviously, Hotel Mario is an awful, terrible, shitty game made by absolute wingnut hack jobs that had no idea of how to make games. But what makes Hotel Mario the moron's high mark of absolute ineptitude is that this was the flagship of the new CDI. The game that was gonna prove that Phillips had what it took to compete with the big boys. This was the game that Phillips had to negotiate hard to get in the first place, and they didn't just squander the opportunity. They downright neutered it to death with a game that is just filled with difficulty bullshit to the impossible degree. If you somehow find a physical copy of this game, the world would be better off if you bought it just to break it into pieces and then set fire to the wastebasket. I would go even further by saying that emulating it is a negative use of time. Time should be taken away from my life for playing this game, which is a good thing that no good CDI emulator actually exists. So yeah, Hotel Mario was exactly as terrible as everyone said it was, and I feel horrible for subjecting myself to entertainment-based torture. Hopefully the next Mario spin-off won't have my eyeballs bleeding from shame, but until that time, here's the obvious scoreboard. And a happier victory for gamers. I'm gonna go to my optometrist now.